Live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire and the Gurkha Cigar Studios in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Kevin Acuff.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco of SmokinTabacco.com, and I am joined once again by Kevin Acuff, also of SmokinTabacco.com. And it's been a week. It's been a long week, and it's only Wednesday. Wow.
I was just going to ask how you're doing.
Yeah, it's how you doing?
It's been a long week, and it's only Wednesday.
Yeah, I know. That's the theme tonight. I got plenty of water with me. I'm not going to smoke tonight, just as a heads up. I am battling the end of a cold, and I have a bad cough that has just been nasty. And if I light up a cigar right now, it'll be worse, and I have to sleep after this, and I don't want to really agitate it. So I apologize. As much as I would love to have a cigar tonight, I have to sit this one out. But the show still goes on, so I'm still here. I'm not going to cancel the show because of that. That wouldn't be fair to everyone else involved. But yeah, it's been a week. It's been a long week. It's been a long day, and but we're here. We're doing the show. We have one of my favorite people here tonight to join us, which I'm very excited about. Every time he comes on, it's always an event. Let's get him in here. I don't want to keep him waiting anymore. It's none other than the man himself, the rock star, quite literally, of the industry. It's Pete Johnson from Tatuaje. There he is. Look at him. Looks fucking great.
I started laughing when you said rock star. And how dare you make me wait 15 minutes? Damn it.
Well, I mean, you were in a band,
not
so
my rider, man.
This wasn't part of the
See,
contract.
Kevin's killing me. I saw you pick up the glass, and I thought, well, he's drinking. And then Kevin just pulls up a glass of wine, and I don't even have anything in front of me. I'm actually...
Don't feel left out. This is water.
Can you put me in the waiting room so I can go get something?
I mean, I can.
I feel like I need something.
You got to go grab something, Pete. Go grab something.
Well, put me in the waiting room one more time, and I'll be right back. It will be like 2 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to see a blank screen. So there you go.
All right. Well, let's just bounce him out for a second. You know, it's hilarious. I don't think anyone's ever done that to us before. I don't think it was like, hey, actually, can you hold on a second? Can you take me off? I got to come back in. That's a first.
Well,
That's funny.
I can hear you.
Oh, man.
It's actually funny. I mean, it
reminds
commentary to the show right at the beginning, right?
The only person that this reminds me of, and the only difference is he wouldn't be like take me off screen. Is Carney. Like he would leave the screen up, and then he would get up and like go in his house, and like he would like in the early days of the show when he was on all the time and he was always doing his cooking and stuff. He would just get up abruptly and he would go off camera and he would
not even say anything.
He would be like finishing the meat on the grill and he'd just be like, yeah, dude. So we're doing some things down at the factory and you just see like this empty chair and you just hear him like cooking and he's like talking and it's like.
And I'm back and you won't put me back on the screen.
Well, that's what happens. Well, what do you got there?
There you go.
Drinking Edmund's Oast rare character pick.
Oh, I've seen that. I haven't tried it yet, but I've seen that.
I have not received my own rare character picks, so I decided to continue drinking this. I might have poured it a little thick, though. That's actually only one finger of mine, so it's not bad.
Yeah.
Looks I see nothing wrong.
We're doing all right, I guess. How you doing?
I'm good, but I have a recommendation for you, not because I'm pushing alcohol. If you have a little tickle, there's nothing better for it. And I'm not a doctor. I only play one on TV. There's nothing better than a shot of whiskey.
This is true. And
it will help you sleep. I had an old friend of mine that would have a shot of whiskey before every night, like before he'd go to bed. It would help him sleep. It would lubricate his throat. He wouldn't snore from it. Like, I don't know if it's really true that he didn't snore because I wasn't in the room with him, but it sounds pretty cool.
Whiskey's medicinal, right?
Yeah. That's what it was created for originally.
So there you go.
I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, I love whiskey. You know, so I mean, I don't, whatever excuse I need, hey, I'm game. I'm game. Especially high test, I mean, come on. You guys know how it goes. I like a high test, something I can put in the car and go. Something strong, barrel proof.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, is that your wife, Barbara Ann?
It is.
Are we related?
You never know.
That's right,
never know.
Johnson.
No, there's only a billion Johnsons in the United States, so it doesn't matter.
I was gonna say Johnson is, it's almost as common as like Smith, isn't it? I mean, Johnson's like a very popular name.
Johnson and Smith are the two most popular last names. Well, at one time, I don't know about anymore.
Well, it's funny because I have a friend at work who has kind of a unique last name, and I had something on Marketplace recently, and someone reached out with that last name, and I was like, oh, by the way, last night I got a message from some guy, and he had like that last name. I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's related. He was like, oh, you're only allowed to be friends with only one of us, and like just making a joke. He's like, do you think I'm friends with any other tobaccos? I go, yeah, because there's so many other fucking people with the last name Tobacco out there. And he's like, yeah, that's true. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive. I still marvel at the fact that your last name is Tobacco. Mm-hmm. Obviously spelled different, but it's pretty cool.
It's close enough.
There's still people that don't believe it.
Matt Booth still doesn't believe it. He looks at me with disgust. He's like, I don't fucking believe you. I'm like,
I don't believe that Matt's last name is Booth.
I know, really. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's funny because, and I've told this story before, but when I was a kid, growing up in school, people used to like try to make fun of me for it, like, because like when you guys were kids, things were very different, but like when I was a kid, the world started to be more anti-smoking and stuff, and I grew up in kind of a stuffy town. And kids used to say shit to me all the time, like, oh, like, are your parents, like, in the tobacco business? Like, oh, that's so, like, oh, did you guys, like, own slaves on the tobacco fields? And, like, and I'm like, just shit like that. And I'm like, and, like, I used to get shit for it, like, all the time. Like, people would make, like, the dumbest comments. And then all these years later, it's like, here I am. And I'm just like, huh, how the tables have turned.
Now you're in the industry and you still get shit for it.
Yeah, but I like the shit I get now. I like the shit I get now.
It's all a lie. It's all a lie.
It's all made up. It's all made. I still have to pull my license out, and people are like, you changed that. I'm like, no. I have to start carrying my birth certificate around and be like, no, here it is. It's a day one. I didn't change it. I was given a gift, and then I gave that gift to my wife, and now I've given that gift to my daughter. Although I know the thing that kills me is that
she'll get shit for it.
She'll get shit for it, but then someday it'll go away. I mean, maybe. I might have to convince her to hyphenate her name. Be like, you got to keep the last name. You got to keep it going. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come there. I got 20 or 30 years before I got to deal with that, hopefully.
It would be great if she gets married and ends up marrying some dude with a Spanish last name.
Yeah.
Like Tabaco Garcia, Tabaco Fuente, something like that.
I see what you're doing. Wait, yeah, because did your wife take your last name or did she keep the Garcia? I forget.
No, she's got Garcia. She puts Garcia Johnson on everything, but it's Garcia.
Like legally? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just straight Garcia.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm pretty comfortable that she's with me for the long haul.
Yeah. She puts up with your shit. That's what it is. Don't they all? That's what they do.
She puts up with a lot of my shit.
That's what they do. I've learned.
Like, I'm a really needy character. Like, I need approval on things. So, like, I like to show her, like, the progress that I'm doing at my new office. And I like to show that, like, I built a chair or a desk. And I want her to go, wow, honey, that's great. I need that. I need that validation.
Now you're starting to sound like Terrence Riley. You need validation.
Oh, no. Yeah, let's rewind and pick a different word then. I will not be wearing a Letterman's jacket.
Yeah, and
I bet you peach cheesesteak pictures are a lot better too.
And this isn't like a weight come or anything like that, but I feel like Pete's the kind of guy that just like I've never eaten with you, but I feel like Pete's one of those people that like knows how to eat well. Like not just like healthy, but like just like knows good stuff. Like there's some people like in that whole like like food battle thing, and they like to battle and argue about different foods, but I'm like, you have no taste, and I can tell because you know what I mean? Like the shit they complain about, and I'm like, you have no taste. Like, come on. But Pete strikes me as a guy who knows how to eat.
Food guy. I like Italian food. Simple, easy. You can cook it very easily. It's easy to order on a menu. I mean, there are some strange words that I still can't pronounce, but I'm not really picky. Like, all I know is that I finish every plate. Everything that's on my plate, I was taught to eat everything on the plate. It's a lot different than the kids today where they leave half their plate and they just think it's, can I throw this away? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, our parents made us eat everything.
Yep, if you take it, you eat it.
Go ahead.
I said, if you take it, you eat it. And you sit there till it's gone. Yep, you sit there till it's gone.
Well, there's a little bit of a difference. In our house here, my wife, when she's cooking for the kids, she'll plate the food for the kids thinking that, okay, yeah, they're going to eat this. But she always overloads their plate. Like, I can't even look at the plates and go, yeah, I could finish that.
So are you saying that she...
Usually I'll finish it and then be really miserable, like, after eating it all.
Does she load their plates up more than your plate?
Yeah, because they're grown-up kids. They're big, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all like, well, the youngest is probably just under 6 feet, so he's a little shorter than me right now. But we got 1'6'2" and 1'6'4".
Damn, wow. That's a big family.
Yeah, but they're all still kind of growing. And now we have one graduating college, and he's going to be entering the cigar business this summer.
Oh, that'll be cool. Spending a lot of time down at the factory and the farm and all that.
Oh yeah, that's his first rule, that he has to go down and spend like a month with his uncle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, I've seen a lot of the other like, like the kids, so to speak, that have like gone on to enter the business, and it's funny because it's like, and they all, I feel like it's kind of, not that it's like a rule, but just watching from the outside, there's kind of like you have to learn every department of the business, and as I think you should. If you're going to be in a family business, you got to know every department. But some of them start like with the sales, and then like work their way into like the farms and the factory, and then some of them like start in the fields in the factory, and they work their way into like the other side where the sales and all the other shit is. So it's interesting to see like who kind of does what. Like Lito Gomez Jr., who I'm good friends with, he's now joining Tony and Lito. And he's kind of started with the sales aspect of it. And I mean, he did the solely and all that with Tony and his dad. But he's kind of, right now, he's really like in the sales part of it. And just kind of like watching him go through that whole thing is really interesting. And he talks to me about it, and it's interesting. But yeah, it's cool to see. Regardless, it's cool to see that like so many of like you guys with like the the younger people with like the families, like it's so great to see so many of them are like staying into it, like because
this is a great time actually in the industry. This is a wonderful time in the industry because there's so many new generations coming in, like relatively close to each other. You got Carlito's kid, you got Christian's kids, you got Padron kids. The funny thing about the last two that I just mentioned went to the same school as our boys. So,
that's right. You told us that before.
There's a school down here that's like a tobacco school. I mean, it's not a tobacco school. It's a Jesuit boys' school, but there just happens to be a lot of cigar companies that put their kids there.
And they all seem to like kind of stay together too, because you guys all know each other. Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
It's it becomes like a little fraternity.
Yeah, it's like
Like
their
I've
own
been
little
at
clique. Oh, that's the cigar clique. They
multiple
all.
parties where like um, maybe like George's son shows up because he happens to know someone that's at the same party as that I'm at because of the relationships that everybody has down here. Like we have a really good relationship with like the Perez family who do ASP, and that happens to be a great connection with one of our lawyers down here. And next thing you know, we're sitting in a room with the Perez family, our lawyers, George Padron's son. So the Garcias. It's kind of incestuous in a way, but it's really cool for these people to be hanging out together.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great that the families and like everyone they everyone sticks together, and it's nice. It's not like people are divided. Like, oh yeah, but my dad has his factory, yours has his. Like no, like everyone, like I see it at the trade show. I see it at the
Yep.
trade show because all the kids are all out now at the bar at night, and like when we were just at PCA, like I was with Lito Jr. and he was just like, oh yeah, like that's Padron's kid, and like and they're all like hang out together, and to be honest with you, it's so nice to see that everyone like stays together. I think that that's great for the industry.
Yeah, they kind of, even though they didn't know each other really well when they were younger, their dads grew up working with each other. I mean,
Right.
I have a great picture from a wedding that I was at, where it's myself, George Padron, Pepin, Carlito, Lito, and Jaime. Like just all of us in that little spectrum at someone else's wedding who was also in the industry. So it's kind of like old home week when we get together. Like
Yeah.
it's easy. It's easy, and it's kind of nice that it's easy. Plus, we all of us sit on the same board with the CRA. Now we got Tony in the room, which is great.
6'5" he is. He sticks up above everybody else.
I think he's a little taller than 6'5".
Yeah. I don't know what he is. He's tall.
Well, Lito. I mean, Tony compared to like Safi Levin from Ashton, you're talking about at least a 2-foot range right there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sorry, Safi.
Yeah, he's got and he's got that John Wick look to him. Because every time I see him, he's got the
does.
suit on. He's got the long hair.
Right?
I told
Yeah.
Carney, I'm like, dude, every time we're like with him, I feel like I'm walking around with John Wick.
I'll tell you, Matt, you were at the CRA impromptu meeting last year, but this year at the trade show, Tony Gomez got up and spoke, and he was amazing. Like everything he said just hit perfectly. So
Yeah.
like when by the time Rocky got up to talk, he's like, Tony said everything.
Yeah.
Kind of nice.
Yeah, no, I know that he's new to the CRA, and I remember that he's been on there. That was announced
He's,
like the end of last year? How long has he been in
yeah,
now?
it's officially about 5 months or so.
Yeah, I remember that. I thought
Well, actually, it was it was supposed to be longer than that because we were voting him in last year. But he never had a quorum, so we had to like officially vote him in a few months later.
okay. Yeah, no, it's cool to see him involved and stuff like that too, especially being a younger generation. Not that he's super young, but he's not older like a lot of the rest of you guys.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah, I was trying to be as gentle as I could, but yeah, I mean he's younger. I mean it's nice, you get some fresh blood in there and keep that torch going, and because
I
I mean
think that
you
resonates well with the industry for sure. To
I
have
mean,
the
no,
young
I mean, yeah, I mean, eventually, George Padron and Rocky and Carlito, those guys are going to pass away. They're going to get old and they're going to be gone, and then you'll be right behind them, and then.
I love how you just went straight to the passing away part instead of getting old first.
Well, because generally the rule of thumb in this business is that you don't really like get old and retire. You go to the end, and then that's it. So that's when it stops. That's when it stops. I mean, did Jose Padron and Carlos Senior they were in the factory till like the end? I mean, come on.
No, yeah, you don't stop working in this industry.
I mean, even
unless you just completely sell out and meaning like sell the company and disappear. But you don't stop working.
Even your wife's dad. I mean, how old is he now?
He's 73, and he was at one particular farm, twice in the same day, which is about a half hour away from the house in Nicaragua. So even though he had already visited other farms, he said, I need to go back to this farm right now to look at it. We're looking at him going, he's crazy. He was a little obsessed with a certain plot that still had tobacco in the top primings in the field, and he wanted to make sure that they were cropping it.
Attention to detail.
Farmer. That's what he does.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys in this business that are like that. I mean, you have the people like you who very accessible and stuff, and do a lot of blending and stuff. But you get a lot of these other guys too, where, and I was told this when I started doing this, that like oh yeah, I'd love to get so and so on this, and like they're never gonna come on your show. Not because they don't want to, but it's like that's just not what they do. They're farmers. Like that's what they do. They stay down there. They work the field. They don't do this shit. This is not for them. They just want to work in the field. They want to work with the tobacco. That's what they do.
You also have some generations of these tobacco guys that don't speak good English, so it's not easy for them to get on shows like this.
That's true too. Yeah.
For the Garcias, you could actually think of me as like a factory liaison in a sense, because I know enough about their side of it that I can easily talk about most of it, but obviously there's some stuff that I don't even bother asking about. So,
right, yeah. I mean, that factory was our factory of the year last year. I mean,
yes,
Yeah,
and then Coop followed you this year with it.
I think he did. He did.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that factory. I mean, hands
always
down.
Riding on the coattails. Coop's always riding on those coattails.
Ooh, I listen. I'm not gonna get in. I don't want to get an angry text from Coop in the morning. Be like, I heard what you and Pete Johnson were talking about.
I hope that Coop knows that I like to poke just for fun.
Because I will. I'll get a message. Oh, I heard what you and Pete Johnson were saying.
I voted for anything next year because of it.
Oh, it's fun to get Coop fired up though. That's a weekly occurrence here. You got to get him fired up.
Part of like an unofficial part of this show is finding a way to make a lovable jab at Coop, and it's because we love him so much. It's not out of like disrespect, and he knows that.
That was my lovable jab. That was
He
my lovable
he knows.
jab.
He knows how I feel about him. I've told him how much I love him. He knows, and he also knows that because I love him so much, I like to poke fun at him.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, so Matt, every time I see Coop, I always tell him something that's a teaser because I know he doesn't like teasers.
That's great. I didn't know that, but I'm so happy that you do that.
No teasers. He doesn't like that whole thing. So every once in a while, I'm like, "Hey, Coop, by the way, I got this thing coming, but I won't talk about it because you don't want any teasers." Here's the problem. There's a rule that I have, and I think that it's a general rule. By the time you tell a joke 3 times, it's no longer funny. Like, that's the end of it. You're supposed to stop. But in this case, I just keep on going with it. So eventually, Coop is going to, punch me or something.
No, I don't think Coop has that in him. He'll just do his thing where he'll leave you off the list when you're something like, Pete, you didn't really have anything good, and it's like, no, this is because of one comment he made, and he gave you a hard time, and he gave you a bunch of teasers.
My best ongoing joke that I have is with Dojo.
Oh,
because
yeah?
every time I see them, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm still not making a cigar for you guys.
Oh, is this something that they have been harping on you to do?
No, they've asked me a couple times. I'm like, nah, it's not what I do. They're good dudes. I really enjoy the Dojo guys. But it's become now a joke with us. Yeah, I'm still not going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, look, you make a lot of different stuff, and we're going to talk about some of it in a minute. I do want to circle back.
Are we actually we're going to talk about cigars tonight?
A little bit, just a little bit, but honestly,
I'm trying to nurse I don't know if you saw me. I'm trying to stretch my shoulder out because I've been building furniture at the new office, like I told you earlier,
Yeah.
and I needed validation from my wife for how good of a job I did. But yeah, I've been lifting things I shouldn't be lifting after 2 hernias and a gallbladder surgery from late last year.
Damn. That sucks.
Yeah.
That really sucks.
That was fun.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
don't
it
know if you
was.
saw the documentary at the trade show, but that scene where I was sitting there arguing with them that I had to introduce myself was 2 weeks after I had the surgery, and I was really irritable.
So I'm actually going to talk about it in a second, but I do want to circle back really quickly because I do have 2 ads that I want to hit, and then I do want to bring that up. But first and foremost, as I'm not smoking tonight, and I know that they're not available here, you can still head over to the number 2 guyscigars.com to get an amazing selection of cigars and cigar accessories from the industry. Head over there now for a great time. The number 2 Guys Cigars. That's the number 2 guyscigars.com. And while you're at it, head over to SD Dupont and check out their amazing collection of cutters and lighters. It's all we use here at Smokin Tabacco. That's right. We rely on only the best. I'm using not tonight, but on a regular basis, I'm using the new Biggie lighter from SD Dupont. It looks like the Legrand, but it's actually a flat flame lighter, and it's badass. If you've been watching the show, you know how we feel about the flat flame lighters. They're fantastic. Also, while you're at it, don't forget the famous line 2. Can't go wrong with one of those. And Kevin, I believe you have the Slimmy over there.
Yes, I have the Big East baby brother, the Slimmy,
which is also a great lighter.
And then I also like to play with my line 2.
There you go. There you go. Don't forget SC DuPont, shake up the legacy. All right. Yeah, Pete, it's funny that you bring this up because on Friday I had some shit going on and I was doing stuff with Nicole because we got to town Thursday. Hold on a second, excuse me. We had kind of a yeah, I'll get that after. But no, I mean, one of the things I promised Nicole was, we would do some non-cigar stuff before the trade show began, and so we were doing some stuff Friday morning, and by the time I got back to my room and got all my shit ready, I had to go to registration. There was an issue at registration with all of our badges, but I got it straightened out. But it took me a little longer than I wanted to, and I actually walked in about, I want to say, halfway through the trailer. And I was really disappointed because that was like the one thing that I really wanted to see. Because I've been such a huge fan of all the hand-rolled stuff, as well as, I kind of knew, what was going to be premiering, and, I was very interested. So I only got about halfway in, so I can't remember if I saw the part you're talking about, but I did want to...
No, yeah, that was early on. So you probably came in somewhere around the time where George and Sig were arguing.
I think so, yeah. But I saw
asked, part 2. It's not really going to be a part 2. It's actually one thing, but they're still working on it. There's a lot of information, and potentially some more filming.
Well,
so,
teasers.
One of the things that I did find interesting was, one of the parts I remember the most was, and I didn't know this about your wife and her family.
Yeah.
But they were like telling the story of like leaving Cuba and how. So if I remember correctly, so she left on her own and like left them behind. I didn't know that. Then that's a I remember just being like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a tough story for me to watch and even talk about. Honestly, it's you're talking about a girl alone in Miami, like working 3 jobs, gas station, grocery store, cleaning houses, and sleeping on couches, saving money so she could get her dad into Nicaragua, and eventually them saving enough money to bring the rest of the family to Nicaragua. Yeah, it's a feel-good story though, because the part that you didn't see where it ends with probably one of the most horrible things to hear from a father to a daughter. Where Pepin says he had to cry in silence. That's tough. But after that, there is a whole scene where they finally reunite in the United States, which is another tear jerker in the film. So I think you'll appreciate the whole story. I mean, it's not really telling the whole story of the Garcias, but that's a big part of where they started. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing the whole thing.
No, me too. I mean, I just remember watching that and being like, wow, I didn't know like that, this is what they went through, and I just was really taken aback by it. I was like, wow, this is a really, I wanted more. I was like, this is a really cool story. But at the same time, like, yeah, it makes you kind of like stop and think a little bit. Like, there's, like, I never had to do that. You know what I mean? Like, the people have, people have to go through that. That's, it's a really powerful, thing to take in. So, and I was just curious, how old was she when she left?
18.
18.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
So she came up. I mean, when she won the U.S. Cuban visa lottery, and that was a thing back in those days,
Yeah.
where they would give away a certain amount of visas to Cuban people to come to the United States to change their life.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. But in the doc, she actually says, like, my parents didn't want to let me go, and they still had to sign a piece of paper okaying it. So it was it's an emotional story for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because we had Juan Lopez on a couple weeks ago, and he was telling, I didn't know that he was kind of in this. He was like, yeah, me and my mom were the boat lift, and we came from Cuba, because he had just gone back with his wife Bianca, and I was like, is it, safe for you to go back to Cuba? And he's like, yeah, but it's like, I went back to my old neighborhood, and yeah. And I know a lot of this industry is made up of Cuban people or Cuban ancestry, and there's a lot of stories around this industry with these families, people that we all know.
Yeah, because a big portion of the industry had to come over when the embargo hit,
Right.
when Fidel took over, and then of course another group of people came over during the boat lift.
Yep.
And then there's other people that came a little later, obviously, but there's a lot of great stories in the industry, especially from the Cuban aspect of it, because of the struggles they had to get to the United States, first of all.
Right.
And then, of course, what they had when they got here, which was nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, hearing the stories too, it really makes you appreciate, like, what you have and where you came from, and to hear about, what other people have had to deal with, and it's also cool too because, you look at a lot of these people, and you see where they came from. They came, from nothing. They were happy they escaped from Cuba, and now you see like where they are now, and you're just like, damn, like, fucking good for them, dude. Like, look at them now. You know what I mean? Like, it's
it gives you a whole new level of respect for the families and what they've gone through, and appreciation for sticking it out and doing what they do to make it happen. I mean, there's a lot of people that would fail and never make it. These people did whatever they had to do, however they had to do it, and stuck it out and made it. So it's wow.
Yeah, very, very, very cool. Well, I'll change gears a little bit too. Pete, I did want to talk a little bit about cigars with you.
Sure.
As I'm sure you expected. This
Honestly,
year,
I like doing these conversations just in a natural flow. Like, it doesn't have to be about cigars. I actually appreciated you telling me your batshit story.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's kind of how this show
knows what we're talking about, but yeah.
Matt admitted that he's batshit crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Literally. I think that that's like one of those. that's one of those problems that's sending me there too, and it's ironic. But no, it's a whole world of unknown. We'll find out soon. Just how many tenants we have. But anyway,
now everybody in the comments are like, "What the fuck is he talking about?"
it's like the teaser thing too. Like I gotta leave them wanting more. You know, I can't give them everything. I have to leave them be like, oh man, I wish I knew that story. You know, it's maybe I'll tell the story next week. I don't know. You know, this is how teasers work. It goes against everything that Cigar Coop stands for, and we do it here. So, I'm gonna leave a teaser right there. I'll leave a teaser right there. Anyway, but yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, we talked a lot about in the last couple. Like I was on How About That Cigar, and we've done Spare Notes and all that. You know, we've talked about, you know, what kind of came out of the trade show this year. And this was kind of an interesting trade show year. Definitely not a bad trade show. It was a good trade show. You know, as you know, I saw you in the booth, and you guys were doing your thing, as always. You know, everyone was busy. You were doing your thing. Just having a great time. Being
Running
you.
in circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just making it look easy. But, you know. But no, I mean...
It's not easy.
No, I know.
I start to run away. You know that.
Yeah. Well, and I said to you when we were in the booth, I'm like, does it like? Do you feel weird that your wife's booth is like not too far away, but it's still like? Do you get lonely because she's like all the way over there, and you kind of like, yeah, I kind of miss my wife right now, like, but she's all the way over there, and I gotta stay in my booth. Like, I can't just go hang out with her over there.
We purposely have always been together since the day we started. Like the first year that I went to the trade show, we didn't have the ability, but the second year I actually had her brother in the booth rolling cigars for me in Vegas in 2004. So every year since then, we always shared booth space in some way. So when it was a time where it was like, okay, they need a bigger booth and I should probably have my own. I was like, I told the PCA, I said, I need to have a space right next door. And luckily for us, we're like the third company that gets to choose our booth space. Between the Garcias and myself, or Tatuaje, we're the third company that gets to choose booth space. So it's pretty easy to find spaces next to each other.
It makes a lot of sense. I don't blame you. You know, if I was in that situation, I would probably do the exact same thing. Be like, I want to be near her booth. I want to be like whatever the next plot is. I want to be there.
Think about if your wife started her own podcast and you guys were across the hall from each other.
That
would suck.
Yeah, it'd be weird. Be like, I want to be over there too.
Sister, I was fortunate enough to be able to work the trade show with my wife.
Me too.
Yeah, right.
Me too. Yeah, it's a couple's affair at that trade show. Yeah, but I'm just thinking like that would be horrible if you were like all the way up front and like they were all the way in the back and you're just like, I don't know what she's doing over there. I want to go over there, but it's too far. At least now you can kind of like peek over there and come back. But no, I mean it's cool. I mean you guys had your same black and white booth, which it's on paper it sounds like, oh, it's just black and white, but honestly I think the subtle black and white just suits you so well, and it's badass. I love your booth. I love your booth.
Things.
Yeah,
I don't like fancy things, so it's easy for me.
Yeah, and I love it. I think it's awesome. It's cool. It is you, and I love it. But in the center of that booth, as you always do, you get all your new toys on display. And you had a lot of things that you brought with you this year so far. It seemed to me like this was kind of the year of the Cajon, which I know that you had the two Cajonus. Am I even saying that right? Is it Cajon?
No, Cojonu.
Cojonu. Yeah, see, I don't. Cojonu.
You're trying to say cojones.
I think that's what it is.
And this is not cojones. This is you have cojones.
Ah, okay.
Cojonudo is the actual Spanish phrase. So it's slang, and it means ballsy.
Ballsy.
I mean, for the easy translation, you have the cojones and you know how to use them.
Okay. Well, I mean, it
like
makes a
it.
lot of sense. I like it too. I like it too. You know, it's.
Well, when I picked that name for the cigar, the family told me I was not allowed to use it because it was a dirty word. It was a bad word. I go, nah, that's a good word. That's perfect. I like the simplicity of it. And I always pick names that people can't pronounce, so it's easy.
Yeah, I never really put two and two together, but now that I'm thinking back, that's true. On at least some of the stuff. I mean, Lomo de Cerdo is not too hard to say. La Riqueza, I could see some people struggling with. I think I did initially.
Yeah, we get La Riqueza, but that's really it's La Riqueza or La Riqueza. People pronounce it how they see it, and La Riqueza, but it's La Riqueza.
And then I can
There's
imagine
other ones.
I can imagine people like fucking up the pronunciation on L'Atelier.
Yeah, because it's if you have the French say you're like, okay, I didn't understand it, but it's atelier, and you're like, what'd you just say? So the best thing you can ever do, though, if you're confused by something, throw it into Google Translate and have the lady say it for you.
I've done that. That's true. That's true. And it's kind of like my secret shame where I'm like, I need to know how to say this so I don't look like an idiot. And I just I put it in there and then I'm like, and I'll listen to it like 5 times. Like, all right, I got it down. And then I'll be like, yeah. And then when I go to use it, I'm like, I say it like, oh yeah, I know how to say this word for years. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I say atelier,
Which means pastry, doesn't it?
the workshop. No, the workshop.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Le Patissier. The workshop. Yeah. That's right.
Well, see, you said that perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Crown Heads, though. That's never mind. Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking that, but yeah, the workshop. That's what it is.
The workshop was meant to be a way for me to do stuff outside of Tatuaje that wasn't traditional Tatuaje style.
Right. Kind of like experimental.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've always found to be very interesting. I mean, that stuff I've always enjoyed too. And you're right, it's different, it's outside the norm, but it's cool because it's nice to see like different sides of like your blends and the stuff that you're thinking about and where you're working on. I mean, obviously like all your core stuff, your cabinets and all that other stuff. Yeah, that's it's you, it's what you've built a brand on. But then you gotta see this other stuff that you kind of venture off into and experiment with. And it's like, well, what if Pete did something like this? And it's nice. And
Matt, the Dan Welsh that works with me in all of Tatuaje now, because now Atelier and Surrogates are under the Tatuaje umbrella. They've been that way for a while now. But
right,
he always says that, and it's funny, it came up in the documentary, but George Brightman mentioned it. It was, Tatuaje was always the solo act, and Atelier was like the band, and I was still the lead singer. That's the best analogy.
I like it.
I like that too. That's really cool.
Because now I have to collaborate with other people and actually listen to your other musicians in the room.
Well,
it works.
Was it hard at first when you had to let other people into your headspace with that, or is it just kind of one of those things where you're like, well, I've gotten to that point. It's time to.
No, I mean, it's always nice to have a shoulder to lean on. It's always nice to bounce ideas off of people. And I have a lot of friends outside the industry that I talk to about this. And ultimately, Dan and I have very similar palates. So we end up leaning towards a certain style of cigar, and we have, that same, like, okay, yeah, that will work. Even on the milder cigars, that will work. But, in the beginning, I would also bring them cigars and say, okay, what do you think of this? And then,
right.
Then I would change the blend and not tell them, and they say, "What do you think of it?" That type of thing. So like, it doesn't happen as much as it used to in the beginning. I've kind of like released a lot of that pressure,
Right.
and we kind of hash a lot of shit out. And when we go to the factory, it's a nice time to just kind of bounce shit off of each other. And like, what about if we try this? What if we try this? And it's really like, that's where my headspace comes in, where I go, yeah, I don't think it will work. Not on marketing wise. I'm talking about blend wise.
Right.
Like Dan will always throw me like, hey, what if we try this? I'm like, I look at it kind of like in front of me, and I go, yeah, I think that might clash with this, that type of thing.
Right.
And every once in a while, like Negociant's a perfect example. Casey and Dan brought Negociant to me, not the brand, but they brought like a blend idea to me. And I was like, yeah, it could work, but I haven't tried it yet. And it could work because I know that way back in the past, other companies have used a similar blend style with using a particular binder. And with us, we use 2 binders on everything. So I had to replace one of the binders with San Andreas. And it ended up working out great. It shows like a different style of a milder cigar because it's a Connecticut Ecuador wrapper. And I already have Calaiwan, which is a very easy going Connecticut Ecuador wrapper cigar. And then they wanted to throw this a little bit more earthiness into the mix. And I tried it, and as soon as I put it together, I was like, shit, yeah, this actually works. And I was like, I got the name for it already, so this makes sense. And I looked at him, I said, by the way, it's not going to be an Atelier or a Surrogate product. It's going to be a Tatuaje product.
Yeah. It's it's cool. Like, you have many different facets of your portfolio. And within Tatuaje itself, you have different things, and then you have L'Atelier. You got Surrogates. You do have. It's nice because there's like a theme. There's like one big theme for all of it, kind of in a way. But then each individual thing has its own theme, and like you said, I mean, it's nice when you're smoking through it. You can kind of pick it up.
For us, there's definitely like a string that attaches everything.
Right.
Obviously, with the tobacco that we use with the Garcia's tobacco, but we try to create a portfolio of cigars for us to have choices. Mm-hmm. And I'll always say this: we go back to the beginning. Every cigar is made for us to smoke first. The bonus is when other people appreciate it. But ultimately, if no one appreciates it, we better really love it. Otherwise, we're just smoking dog rockets. So they have their own specific reason of why they're in the portfolio. And they do have one string running through them because they're all, based off of the tobacco we use with the Garcias. But again, they're all made for different times of the day and different food choices in a sense. Like I always say this, you wake up in the morning, you're like, okay, cereal, eggs, steak and eggs, what do I want? Just coffee today, whatever. And it's all about the choices in life. So we wake up and go, well, I don't want to smoke Tatuaje Brown Label for the first thing this morning. Let me smoke something else. And that's where we come up with new cigars.
Yeah, I mean, and you've created some stuff too that's gone on to be legendary, so to speak. First and foremost, I think one that I think anyone who's been smoking long enough will agree on is the original pork tenderloin. I mean, it's been ranked on lists of one of the greatest cigars of all time, as I'm sure you're very well aware of. But another one too that I never got to smoke the original pork tenderloin, so I can't obviously speak to that firsthand, but I believe everybody. But another one that I keep seeing pop up in the comments is also one that I really love too, and that's the El Triunfador, which I had some, and I gave my last one to Jay Davis at the trade show, so now I have to buy more.
The Lancero.
Yeah.
Wow, Jay Davis is a good man.
He is a good man. I was sitting there and I had some cigars with me, and I was like, we were trading some stuff, and I was like, I gotta give him something good. And I'm like, I'm gonna give you this, even though I love this cigar. I'm gonna give this to you because Jay's a good man. So now I gotta find more. But yeah, Matt Ty from How About That Cigars here, and he brought it up too, as well as David. I mean, yeah, that is. It's one of the greatest Lanceros of all time, and what's great about it too is you always hear people kind of have that love-hate relationship with Lanceros, but it's kind of like when a Lancero is good, it's good, and if it's not good, then it's, at least what other people have said, it's good or it's not. There's not a lot of room for like, it's all right with a Lancero. So, I mean, when you find a Lancero like that, it's good. And that's definitely one of those Lanceros.
Yeah, with that Triumphador Lancero, it's really all about the broadleaf. I've had this obsession with broadleaf since I was younger. And I think that's probably why I use so much of it.
Right.
But I actually had to branch out of broadleaf for a while because we were having, many years ago, not more recently, obviously, we're very flush with broadleaf now. But many years ago, we were having issues with trying to find farmers because when the FDA came in and scared everybody to death, was saying, they're going to shut down all these small companies and all these small companies are going to go away. A lot of the farmers in Connecticut were afraid to sell their tobacco to anybody but big companies because they knew they had a future with the big companies.
Right.
So I went up to Connecticut with my brother-in-law and my wife, and we started knocking on people's doors and barns. And we found a guy because ultimately we had a great producer of broadleaf that took the easier route and said, okay, yeah, I have to provide for my family. And I don't fault him for that at all because he was making sure that his family was taken care of.
Right.
But ultimately, we found a new farmer that grows some great broadleaf, and we're very happy where we're at now. And for me, broadleaf has always been part of that thing where I needed to have it. And I was actually the guy that introduced broadleaf to the factory because I was so obsessed with it. I started texting John Oliva Jr. and over the Cigar Family chat. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I know about it.
Fuentes Forum. And I asked him, I said, hey, do you have access to any broadleaf? And he goes, yeah, we have some. Just have Pepin and you guys come down the street to our facility in Nicaragua, in Esteli, and pick some up. And that was like really kind of like the first intro to broadleaf for the family because they were so, traditional into Cuban seed varietals and, Nicaraguan tobacco. So they had never really tried it. And I think that's when we put La Riqueza together. And if you look at their portfolio now, the Jaime Garcia blend is still one of the most popular cigars in their lineup.
Yeah.
Because of that problem.
And it's funny you talk about all this too, and I didn't know that, but it's funny because anyone who follows me knows, I listen, at the end of the day, I'm still my own person. I like what I like and I don't like what I don't like, right? As much as, you be in the media and you're going to have to, cover everybody. There are things that I really love as a regular cigar smoker. And I've always been very public about this, there's certain companies that work with certain tobaccos, and I think that they're the best. I've always been very high on Perdomo with his sun-grown. Anything he does with his sun-grown, I've considered some of the best sun-grown. Same with Arturo Fuente. It's those two are probably make some of my favorite sun-grown cigars. When it comes to broadleaf, and I've been very public about this, the broadleaf stuff that comes out of that factory, the My Father factory, is some of my favorite stuff. And it's not even just like their stuff or your stuff. I mean, even the stuff they make for other people. I mean, some of the stuff that they made with Ashton, and they've made with Crown Heads for the the Las Calaveras. I mean, that's why they were our Factory of the Year last year. I mean, it wasn't just because of them or them and you. Like it was everything. It was everything they made.
It was everything.
it's lights out. I mean, they're consistent across the board. It's not like, well, my father's stuff is good, and then obviously, like, you know, like Pete's stuff is good, but like, no, like even the shit they make outside of the family. I mean, it's lights out.
And again, they don't make cigars better for them than they do for me or for Crown Heads or for Ashton or for Nick Melillo now.
Yeah.
They make cigars that are supposed to be tasting good for everybody.
Right.
Like, that's the simple plan. And that was something that when Ashton came into the mix back in 2006 and they requested Pepin to make them a cigar, the first thing that popped up in everybody's head is like, okay, what's going to happen to Tatuaje? Because, you know, Ashton's the juggernaut that's coming in that's going to take over all the production. And it was never that. Pepin actually told the people from Ashton, like, if there's ever a day that he can make one cigar, he's going to make it for me first. So that was refreshing to know. But at the same time, I also know that they're not going to make Ashton a better cigar than me, and they're not going to make, you know, themselves a better cigar. We all make different style cigars.
Mm.
Their idea of making cigars is making a good blend for the client and making sure that it carries through so it reflects good on them. Because if they make a bad blend for the client, and that's what I stressed to them with Ashton. I said, make sure you don't fuck this one up, because this is a serious company that's gonna elevate, you know, the factory. And ultimately, I'm going to be able to ride off of that too, because it's going to elevate my brand, because it's just proving the point that I had with working with you in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it shows all the products that come out of that factory. I mean, they're fantastic, but especially the broadleaf. The broadleaf you guys work with down there. I've said this to you so many times. It's like when people ask me, right? Well, on a personal note, like, what do you really like to smoke? And I don't really, you know, get into it on the show because it's for me. But one of the things that I will say is, you know, there are certain, not necessarily certain specifically cigars or certain blends that come to mind, but my mind goes to brands and the tobaccos they use first. And the broadleaf that comes out of my father is on that list. I don't think I've had one, whether it's their stuff, your stuff, someone else's stuff, just a broadleaf cigar that came out of the factory where it's good from beginning to end. Like, the flavor's there, the complexity's there, it tastes good, the tobacco's, it's not even just that it's blended right. I mean, the tobacco is well taken care of. I mean, it was fermented right, it was aged right. It's just, there's no, you know, there's no youngness to it. It's for me, it's always been just perfect. Like, the flavor that you get from a good broadleaf is always there. And I think that's what I appreciate too, is the not only is it good, but the consistency and the, you know, the time gets put in to working with the tobacco and then, you know, putting the blends together, and it's always consistent. And I think that speaks
delicious.
volumes.
Absolutely delicious every time you pick it up. It doesn't matter.
And Matt,
so
and
good.
I'll stress this, with any good factory out there, with any factory there that has private clients, their job is to make sure that the cigars are always going to be good, because ultimately it will reflect badly if the cigar is bad.
Of course.
And we'll go back to the factory. And I think if you think about any of these relationships over the years where, you know, if you look at some of the biggest names in the industry, Fuente doesn't make a bad cigar for J.C. Newman. That's the reality. They don't make a bad cigar for J.C. Newman.
No.
Because ultimately it would reflect badly on Fuente. So
it's bad for business.
It's bad for business all around. So it's actually, you know, for me, I understand it completely, and I appreciate when the factory is set out to make a good cigar, no matter what name gets put on it.
And that's the way it should be. And I have seen some factories that are putting out some. I don't know if this is by design or whatever, but it is a little disappointing sometimes when you see some of these factories and they're just kind of putting stuff out for certain people just to put it out. And I don't know why, or if there's a purpose behind it, but it is kind of like sometimes you pick up something and you're like, oh, where was it made? And you're like, oh, all right. But then you smoke other stuff and it's like, huh, all right, that's interesting. But
Yeah,
again,
that would be a weird thing for me because like ultimately I don't know if it could be a jealousy thing where the factory's like, I want my name bigger than everybody else, and your name should be below me, so I'm going to make you a cigar that's beneath my cigar. That's just backwards thinking, in my opinion.
yeah, no, I agree, and I think what you said originally makes the most sense. A factory, whether they have their own lines, a factory is a factory. They should make.
Yeah.
They should make everything they make should be good. It's a reflection of the manufacturing process, not just the brand.
Exactly.
And I think that's very important. I think that was very well said.
Thanks for putting it in better words than I did.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, hey, that's what I'm here for. I wanted to hit our news segment really quickly. We'll go over to that and we'll circle back. Our news is once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars. Head over to smokintabacco.com today. You can find reviews on Micallef cigars, including the Micallef Black, rated 91 by that guy over there. Micallef Black, it's a blackout. So we have, I'll be honest with you, we're a little bit behind on the news right now. It's also been a little bit slower since the trade show just happened. But there's a couple of things. Davidoff announced the limited release of their Maduro line. So Davidoff's going to be coming out with the new Maduro, which will be in a Toro, Robusto, and short Corona format. It's a successor to the former Maduro line from 2008. I thought that was really interesting. I mean, to see them doing some more stuff. I mean, a lot of times you think of Davidoff. I think for most people, and Kevin, I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, a lot of times when I think of Davidoff, I think of, mild, lighter, Connecticut shades, and, just not so much Maduros. I mean, not that they don't work with it, but it's not the first thing that comes to mind.
I see what you're getting at. Basically, just kind of go right to the white label.
Yeah, just as their classic white label line, Signature, Grand Cru, Anniversario. Millennium's a little darker, but still, I mean, Millennium's not like, to me, real strong cigar or just really full in flavor and body. But yeah, the Davidoff limited release Maduro line will be coming out, and I'm excited to try that because it'll be something a little bit different, in the white line, and I'm excited to check that out. Also, once again, I'm just going to remind everyone that part of our news segment is to check out our PCA 2024 coverage brought to you by Drew Estate. You can find all of it on the website at smokintabacco.com, so make sure you head over there today to check that out. And that will be our news for this week. Let me go back to Pete, who's been sitting off to the side.
He's back.
He's back. There he is. Look at him. What if I told you that we had 3 more hours to go? Like Cigar Co. He's like, oh, I didn't sign up for this.
Pete's like, peace out.
I actually gotta go. No, we're almost done. I promise, Pete, we're almost done. It's it is interesting. You had a good trade show. At least from the looks of it. People we talked to, really excited about the stuff you had. One of the things I will bring up that I am excited for and hoping that you'll share a little bit of light on this is the Escassos, the Miamis that you had in the booth. So, just to refresh my memory, because I guess I'm not as perfect with it. That is a cigar that you have made before, and it hasn't been in production. Now you're bringing it back, or is this different from the other ones we've seen?
No, that's a particular blend and size, 2 sizes that I made for my 50th birthday. By the way, I'm 53. So
you wear it well, man. I'll give it to you. You wear it well, like fucking Matt Ty over. Matt Ty's in his early 50s, and you'd never know it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Matt looks way younger than me. Really? Is he in his early 50s?
Yeah, he is.
Yes. Damn. So Pete's just probably a little over a year younger than me. So I'll be 55.
Yeah. So
I'll be 55 next month.
What happened was in 2019, I I decided I wanted to have something special for my 50th birthday, which was in 2020. And we made 10,000 cigars total, 5,000 of 2 different sizes. And we finished production in the first quarter of 2020, which then, of course, the pandemic happened. And the cigars sat in the cold room for multiple months until we opened back up. And I just kept on looking at them and saying, okay, yeah, they're there. And eventually, in December of 2020, I had them all packed in 50-count cabinets. Last year, September of 23, I decided to repackage them into 10-count boxes. And I now use those empty 50-count cabs to age cigars in, which have nothing to do with the cigars that are in those boxes now. The 10-count, all the cigars were transferred from 50-count to 10 counts because of the price point. And I'll release them sometime around December of 24, which means the cigars will be about 5 years old, plus the age on the tobacco, which is 3 to 5 years. So you're looking at a good average of about 8 to 9 years on the tobacco.
And what's the price point going to be on those?
I hate to say it, but I decided to pick 2 numbers that I passed and haven't hit yet: $50 and $55.
Okay.
That's another reason why I put them in 10-count boxes, because I knew they were going to be more accessible in 10-count boxes.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'll tell you, I've had them before, and
well, you've had other Escassos.
Oh, I've had other Escassos.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where I might be confused.
You might have had the regular line, the 6 sizes, the original 6, the Habana Cazadores, Unico, Novea, Taino, Especiale, Regio. You might have had those before in the My Father, what we call My Father Corojo MF. It's shade-grown tobacco, shade-grown wrapper from the My Father Farms in Nicaragua. We started that line originally with Habano Claro, but I decided to switch it to Corojo Claro because I was waiting for the Corojo to finish. So ultimately, the 2 cigars that are my 50th birthday cigars are actually used in Corojo Claro. That was the first batch of cigars we made with it.
Okay.
Then I also had a thing called Luxury Escassos, which came in single coffins.
That's what I had.
And there was 4 sizes, and that was like a throwback to old Cuban customs.
Okay, that's what I've had. I've had the ones in the coffins, and I have one of the Solomons left.
Oh, the big Diadema.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the coffin. So that was a $67 cigar.
Yeah, I do have one very hidden away. That I'll be honest with you.
And that was a lot different. Those we made 1,000 of each.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, there was 1,000 cigars of each, all packed in single coffins. And it was really kind of a throwback. One roller rolled every cigar.
Wow.
So the same roller that rolled those cigars actually rolled these two cigars that are in my 50th birthday cigars. So the boxes actually have the 50 on the box.
Well, I remember I started at the show, yeah. Which was kind of cool to see, even though you're not 50 anymore.
Well, I mean, so did you say the jar last year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right, the jars.
Last year?
Which you said you weren't really set on.
Year, I'm redesigning the jars because I wanted to. I just wanted to perfect the way the cigars sat in the jars, and the design I used originally, there was room inside the jar for the cigars to move around, and I didn't like it.
Okay.
So I'm doing a straight cylinder, where basically I reversed the top, where before the base had the suction on it, and the top sat on top of it, but it ended up creating a lip inside, which the cigars could move around in. In this case, now it's just a straight cylinder, and the top goes right into the cylinder.
Oh, okay. I see.
So I'm making samples, but that's supposed to be part of my 20th anniversary. By the time I ban these cigars, they'll probably have a 23 on them.
So for the 23rd anniversary, you
Hey,
know what? We have something to
quality
look
work
forward
takes
to.
time.
Yeah. So now I'm going Michael Jordan, which I know you like, and I know you respect Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I do. That's right. Yeah. Can never go wrong with the 23. Yeah, and since you bring up your anniversary, one of the other things I don't think we've gotten to talk about since it was announced, because last time you were on the show was before the trade show last year, is the La Union that you've worked on with Pepin.
Yeah, well, it's mostly with Jaime. I mean, that was Pepin kind of sat on the, it's obviously, it all stems from Pepin, but Pepin really sat on the sidelines for this because it was a collaboration between Tatuaje and my father. La Union, the Union, obviously, that was something that Jaime and I had been talking about for a couple of years. And we knew we had to come up with something really special for the 20th anniversary. And of course, that was released on our 21st anniversary. And the second version of it, which was rolled at the same time as the other one that was released already, is going to be released on the 22nd anniversary. So we're all a little bit delayed on certain things, but it's really about the production dates and making sure that the cigars are aging. Like right now, the second box that's coming, they're already boxed and sitting in the cold room in Nicaragua, and they're going to age in their box for a year before we put them out.
Oh wow, okay. So we won't see those till next year.
Yeah, you won't see the red box, which is the black box is the one that's out now. The red box won't be released until early next year.
And in total, that's 4 different blends because there's 2 in each box, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
One that I made for them and one that they made for me.
So kind of similar.
It's kind of confusing because the one that I made for them says "for my father" in English, and the one that they made for me was "para tatuaje" in Spanish.
Ah, okay. That's.
And then there's little subtle things with the colorways too, because like my secondary band, the one that's on my cigar is black with silver, which resemble the black label, but it has nothing to do with the black label. And then of course, my father, they use gold.
Yeah.
So there's little subtle things all throughout the packaging. There's a lot of Easter eggs in there too.
Yeah, I've been trying to track some down. I forgot all about that the first ones went out, and it's been on my list of things to get and to try. I remember looking at the boxes last year at the trade show. They were really beautiful, really awesome presentation. But I also thought the whole thing behind it was awesome too. And again, it's on my list of things to try, and hopefully I can track those down. How many of those were made? What was the total production on those?
Well, you're talking about 1,500 boxes of each.
Black and red.
20 cigars, black and red. And then there was 20 cigars on each side. So you're talking about 30,000 cigars for each blend.
Okay. Nice.
And these are going worldwide. We sold 250 internationally because that was the allotment we decided to give international.
Yeah.
Or was it 250 or 300? And then the rest stayed in the United States. And my wife is actually, because they're distributing, I have nothing to do with the distribution.
Oh, okay.
They're doing all the distribution. My wife has been holding back a small amount of the boxes because there are some stores that have been trying to reorder it, and we're kind of piecing them out like a box here, a box there type of thing.
Oh, okay. Now, is that something that maybe you guys would do again in the future for 25th or a 30th or whatever? Or is this, do you think, the one you've done?
I think there's a definite possibility because there's so many other blends and so many other wrappers that we could use. You got to remember that we picked 4 blends with 4 different wrappers.
Right.
So there's other tobaccos that are being grown right now that could easily land on our 25th anniversary that like a new seed varietal from Cuba that's like really growing really well. I don't want to say what it is, but it's a newer seed from the island that the family got, and they've been growing it, and they're really happy with the way it's being produced, the way it's growing. So when that starts processing, we're going to start looking at it for future projects, and then of course we have Honduras coming up, because the Honduran part of the Garcia story is just starting. Another teaser, yes.
Yeah, another teaser. There we go. Yeah, Coop will love that.
Thanks, Alex.
Well, we are getting towards the end of the show. We are running out of time. I did not realize what time it was. So, I apologize for that, everybody. But yeah, we are getting towards the end of the show. Pete, I just want to say thank you once again for coming on the show. You're always great. You're a great guest. It's always fun to talk to you. We always kind of keep it light, keep it casual. I try to cover some cigar stuff, but we also like just lay it back, have some fun. It's the way we like to do it here, and you definitely make it more fun. So thank you for taking some time out of your furniture building time to come and hang out with us.
Well, I mean, doesn't matter. I appreciate what you guys do, and I will always try to make time for you guys no matter what.
We appreciate
because
that.
I think it's important for the educational side of the industry, for people to learn about the brands that they're enjoying.
Right.
Whether it be me on the show or anybody else. Watch the show, because you might learn something you don't know. You might learn a little bit about cigar history that you don't know. So I appreciate you having me on. I tip my hat to you guys, and thank you for keep on doing this for the industry as a whole. But I will say the furniture building part is because I bought a building last year, a small condo building, like a industrial condo, to split my distribution East Coast, West Coast. So it would make it easier, and that way the retailers would get everything within 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And ultimately, I'm still filling the room up, so including building desks and building chairs and putting up racks and stuff like that. So I'm just happy. My biggest happy moment was today, because I had my garage door guys come over, and we sealed the garage bays, because I have 2 garage bays in there, because the whole building is humidified and temperature controlled.
Okay.
And my biggest fear was the humidity, because for some reason we're in like a drier spell in Miami, and I just wasn't seeing the humidity levels pop up where I want them to be. And them sealing, the sides and the bottom and the top of the garage bays, I made sure I did a lot of things to the building, where I insulated the roof, insulated the ceiling, made sure that the garage bay doors were insulated. I made sure I spent a lot of money to make sure the cigars were very well cared for. And so today I finally hit my number on the humidity level. I was like super happy.
Oh, so you're happy because you get it where you want it, and you're like, oh, it worked.
Yeah, like it finally worked. Now I'm going to start loading stuff in, which is now the question mark, though, because now I have to worry when I do fill it up with product, and that's all going to hold temperature and humidity. Then I'm going to have to make adjustments from there, because when you start getting things for the humidity to stick to, then that's the real test of dialing it down or up to make sure it stays consistent.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear how that goes, because that's we hear a lot of people that ask questions about humidity and temperature control and all that, and we honestly should do a whole show on it, because people are constantly asking me. But yeah, it can be depending on what exactly it is, whether it's a humidor, like a cabinet, or it's a room. Yeah, it can be tricky. There's parameters that you want to be within, and then controlling that environment is there are steps you need to take. So um, yeah, I'm actually very
Yeah, I
interested in
mean,
that.
it's a daunting task actually because you have to know the product. Also, in certain tobaccos react differently to humidity, and ultimately, like broadleaf, it craves all these thick, high priming wrappers. Broadleaf, San Andreas, even Habano, high priming. It's going to crave more humidity, so you want to make sure that you keep those babies fresh as can be.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Pete, next time you come on, we'll have to follow up with you on that and find out, how it's all going over there. But
It's going to be a disaster.
I'm sure you'll have a great story to tell us. I
So,
also.
So I have a
6 months and I haven't moved in.
So I have a question kind of related to that. So you said you're going through a dry spell in Miami. So what actually constitutes a dry spell, humidity-wise, in Miami?
Oh,
Like,
we're in the low 60s, mid to low 60s, which is good for a lot of people. But when you're opening up doors and closing doors, you want to make sure you want to make sure it stays. For me,
right?
especially when the product leaves and starts shipping across the country, I want to make sure that it's staying closer to the higher 60s.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course we're lucky because temperature obviously is a very important thing, especially when you talk about tobacco beetles and larvae and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that you stay consistent below, let's say 72 is a good consistent level. But it's all relative with the humidity too, because if you go too high in humidity and you have those temperatures, you got to beware of things spiking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, we freeze everything. We freeze all the tobacco. We freeze all the cigars. Even the raw material gets sent up to Miami to be rolled in Miami gets frozen before it's sent up, and that actually helps with 99.9% of your problem with the tobacco beetle
Okay.
because you're ultimately cracking the eggs that are on tobacco products. Ultimately, you're going to find it on any piece of tobacco. But if you miss one of those things, fumigation doesn't work. Fumigation is a temporary fix. That's it. We got rid of fumigation years and years ago. The freezing part is ultimately the safest way to go
Mm-hmm.
and the cleanest way to go, obviously. And you could creep up above 72, even 74, and not have to worry about anything happening with the tobacco. I mean,
Okay.
this is nerd stuff. Like, and I'm
Right, but
really
it all
nerdy when
makes
it comes
perfect
to
sense too.
yeah. I'm
It's good
really nerdy when
information.
it comes to cigar care, and not every cigar is the same. So you have to really kind of you move certain cigars to different parts of the room because they're going to crave more humidity than others. Because you're not going to have in a big warehouse to get an absolute consistent temperature and humidity. I have sensors all throughout the warehouse testing like to make sure that the humidity levels are where I need them to be. And okay, that section I know I need to keep those cigars because they're not going to need as much humidity as others. There's no,
There.
but again, this is all personal too. This is me
Right.
experimenting with my own cigars because ultimately, what I do with cigars is not what the next person is going to do with them. And you have to find your own version of what's good. I can't dictate what is absolutely perfect for cigars. I can only give you a suggestion, but you're going to have to find that humidity and temperature range that works good for you with those particular cigars.
Right. Well,
And
especially I would think in some situations, people won't be able to, I mean, so you do and create what you create. people in other areas and other regions aren't going to be able to duplicate what you do. So you got to find what works for you where you're at.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is only a suggestion. It's not perfection for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's all good information. Humidity control is obviously, when you talk about cigars, it's one of the most important things. And, anytime you can take, something out of that, to help yourself, it's good. It keeps them fresh. People always, and that's one of the other questions people ask, well, how long are cigars good for? And it's like, well, if you take care of them, they'll last a long time, in theory, in theory, forever, but we know that's not 100% true. Because they will change eventually. But in theory, if you take care of them, yes, they will last a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it is. Everything Pete said.
Wine. It's different than wine in the sense where you could keep a bottle in the same spot, in the same temperature and humidity for forever, but the wine is eventually going to break down. The colder the room, I will tell you, the colder the room, the wine starts to sit more dormant, and you can actually get away with aging it even longer.
Right.
But the wine's going to break down. With cigars, yeah, the cigars are going to change gradually. The tobacco's going to break down, but I've had 60-year-old cigars that taste amazing. So there is a way to keep cigars for a very long time, like you said.
Yeah, it's all in how you take care of them. So, humidity control, temperature control, controlling the environment, that is what it's all about. And that's why it is so important, especially when you have large humidors. We have a lot of cigars in.
David in the chat asked, how do you bring dry cigars back to life?
Oh, yes.
David, slowly. The best thing you can do is to elevate the humidity really slow until you get to an optimal humidity level, which is, everybody thinks about 70. Eventually they'll get there, but it takes time. And just don't rush it, because if you rush it, you're going to get wrinkly cigars, cigars that
crack.
Ultimately crack. You might even get cigars that the flavor profile will change because it got too humid too quick.
Mm-hmm.
And the humidity doesn't really have much place to go. The worst thing you can ever do is over-humidify a cigar and then let it dry out, because you're going to, especially on cedar, when it's a really good cedar box and the cigars have been sitting on high humidity, and then you get it back to normal and you start smoking, they're going to end up tasting like cat piss. For lack of better words.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've definitely had a few like that before. It's not
the struggle is real.
It's not a fun feeling, to say the least.
Did you happen to see the part in the documentary where I was going through my old stash?
No.
There was a portion of where I was in like a small closet going through an old stash of product, and I showed a Davidoff Dom Perignon, and I said, this probably tastes like shit now. Because it's gone through so many, ups and downs in humidity and temperature and it's been sitting on cedar, directly on cedar for so long that it probably tastes like cat piss.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's true. It happens.
Meanwhile, I have cigars from my first production that taste perfect.
Yeah. Well, anyway, look, we're gonna wrap up there. I hate to cut it right in the middle there, but we gotta wrap up here, and I have the baby. I'm on baby duty tonight too, so I also can't stay too late. But guys, thank you for both being here. Thank you to everyone who's been here listening and watching. Pete, again, thank you for being here. I always appreciate your time, and Don't forget to head over to SmokinTabacco.com for more news, reviews, and updates on the cigar industry, our 2024 PCA coverage, and coming soon, our 2024 Cigar Family Charitable Foundation fundraiser. What did just say? So stay tuned. We'll have an announcement on that probably soon. Pete's got something in there again this year. Another mystery pack. That's all I'm going to say. And we're really excited about it. So take care. We'll see you next week.